Hi, welcome to episode 504 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram, Blue Sky, and I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where you'll find this week's show notes, every week's show notes, and also more information about me. And on Etsy, I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, January 13th. I can hardly believe we're already a third of the way through the month. I hope that you are doing well. It is still fairly chilly here in Kansas, and we did actually get above freezing this weekend, which was nice. It was the first time in a while, and so the streets are relatively clear now. We still have plenty of snow. I can't see my driveway yet, so we're still chilly weather, which is perfect for warm woolies. Unfortunately, my husband had to work a lot of this past weekend, which means I got a lot of crafting in, and I have all the crafts for you today. I have embroidery, knitting, spinning, and quilting. So I will get started because I have lots and lots to show you. Today I am drinking, it's called Backyard Blend. It is a blend of tea from the Amish store that my husband and I like to visit at exit 3 off of I-35, which is right inside Iowa. And there is, it's either exit 3 or exit 4. Anyway, this is orange. This is black tea with orange and strawberry and blackberry, and it reminds me of summer with all the fruit, and it is lovely. Obviously, I'm a bit out of season because it is winter right now, but it reminds me of summer days, and it smells delicious. And I'm drinking it in my sunflower mug, which was a purchase from Jenny the Potter several years ago, and I pulled it out this week, and that's the one I've been using quite a bit. So I have one tiny finished object that I did not talk to you about before, but there might be more this week. So normally I am working on chickens for the City Girl Farm. I have showed you lots of those in the past, and if you are curious, you can go to thecitygirlfarm.com. I am a contract chicken feather knitter for them, but I do not have a chicken this week because of the weather. I have not gone to the studio in a couple weeks, and so I don't have anything new to work on. So I decided to, one of my New Year's goals was to knit a little bit more for charity. And also combined with using up some of my stash and not purchasing other fibers yet. And so just after the holidays, I saw someone talking about a new cause to knit for. They live, I believe, in the New Jersey area. And there is a woman in New Jersey who is taking donations. I have it bookmarked on Instagram. I'll try and put a link to it in the show notes, which are on my blog, The Corner of Knit and Tea. There is a woman who is collecting both monetary donations and knitted donations. She realized that when folks go to food pantries to get food, a lot of the times food pantries do not offer cleaning supplies, and of course if you are getting food somewhere, you need to wash your dishes when you are done with them. And so what she started was she started knitting a bunch of washcloths, and then she started buying dish soap. And so she takes a stack of, well, I guess dishcloths. She takes a stack of dishcloths and bottles of soap to dish soap to the local food pantry, and now when they hand out boxes, they go ahead and they hand out these dishcloths and dish soap so that folks can wash their dishes. And I realized that I had a bag of cotton yarn that has been in my stash for a while. I had some cotton yarn, and then a friend of mine had some cotton yarn, and she was moving and cleaning out, and so she gave me this bag of cotton yarn. And so I have had this bag of all this cotton yarn for a while, and it's all dishcloth cotton. It's sugar and cream and dishy and various other things. And I was like, you know, I should just turn that into dishcloths. I can make a donation to her in New Jersey so that she can buy some dish soap, and then I can send the dishcloths to her and she can send them, and I will get some yarn out of my stash. I will do a good thing. I actually should check, because the other thing she said is maybe you have someone local to you who's doing that, and I don't know whether our food pantry does do that, but I guess I could also ask if they would take some donations. and I could go buy some dish soap and take some here, which maybe I'll do. But my thought is that that was kind of an easy thing that I could do. So I went looking on Ravelry, and there are 1,000,001 free dishcloth patterns, and I was looking for something that was really simple with just maybe a few elements of interest. And so I came across this one, and I can't remember what this is called. I will put a link in the show notes because it came from a website where all of the patterns are blog posts. So it's just a few directions for the dishcloth itself. It tells you how many to cast on, if you need to knit a few rows of garter, and then it gives you the pattern. And this was just a really simple 4-row repeating pattern, and so I went ahead and did that. It's just really simple and nice, and I used up almost a full skein of peaches and cream. So I have at least half a dozen more skeins, and then I have all the little bits and bobs. Then I might just do a scrappy garter stitch one, just to get rid of the last little bits. And my hope is that I will get these out of my stash and donate them to a good cause, and it will be a win-win on both sides. So I don't love knitting with cotton. It's a little hard on the hands, but these are kind of bright and cheerful, and I'm really enjoying doing some work for charity and giving something away, and getting yarn out of my stash. And the other thing is that these knit up fairly quickly, and so I knit this over the weekend. I knit like half on Saturday and half on Sunday, and now it's done and ready to go. So I will probably work on those for the next few weeks, and maybe see what I can do to get those out of the stash. So everything else is in progress, and I have 3 projects in progress, and so let's talk to you about the newest one. Well, I guess I have 2 sort of new ones. Last week I talked to you about the fact that I had sort of finished some projects and I was ready to cast on some new projects, and the last time I was home, both of my parents requested socks, and I decided to start on socks for my dad. He is allergic to wool, finds it very itchy, and so I, over the Black Friday sales, picked up a couple skeins of Barocco Comfort. Oh, you know what, I didn't bring it or the label in here, but Barocco Comfort is it's a 55% acrylic, 45% nylon blend, and it comes in a bunch of great solid and heathered colorways, and it comes in sock weight, and then it also comes in worsted weight. And my dad asked for some thick bed socks, and so I cut this really kind of cool forest, or really nice and rich forest green, and so I have been working on a sock for him. I am using the Rye pattern, which is an adult, which is a pattern that goes children, baby, and toddler through child and adult sizes, and I for worsted weight yarn, and it's just a really basic sock pattern. And I am on the foot now. I just finished the gusset. And so I did, the pattern calls for, it's a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. I will put a link in my show notes to the pattern on Tin Can Knits website. It is also available on Ravelry, but if you can't use Ravelry, I will put alternate links in there. So it is a 1x1 ribbed cuff, and then it's got this fun detail in the knitting where it's stockinette on the back and around the sides, and then there is just a panel of garter stitch in the front. And so it does make it pull just a little bit in the front in terms of length, but they'll be cozy and they'll stretch just fine when they're on the foot. And my dad asked for long cuffs, so I did about a 7.5-inch cuff because he said the other ones that I made were too short. And what I did do is my dad has an adult medium-sized foot, but I am making him the adult large-size socks because I wanted the cuff. I didn't want to have to worry about cuff shaping, and so I did the large cuff, and these are nice and stretchy, so I think they'll fit him just fine. And then I did the a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and I just finished all the heel turning and gusset stitches, and now I am working on the foot. And I have quite a ways to go on the foot because I think the foot needs to be somewhere around 8.5 inches, and it looks like it may be at 3 inches, so I have a ways to go, and then I'll put a toe on it, and that will be the first one. And then I have another skein. The pattern calls for, I think, between 320 and 360 yards. Something like that. I have enough yarn to knit a pair and still have a little bit left over, but that is kind of the plan for knitting for my dad. So that is the sock in progress. I had hoped to have one complete, but it just didn't end up that way. But I will complete this week and probably start the next one. So I'm making good progress on these, and I'm plenty pleased with that. My hope is that maybe I can finish a pair of socks for my dad and for my mom by Valentine's Day, and then send them off as Valentine's Day gifts. So that is what I'm working on. Stay tuned. So the second thing I cast on for this week was a knit along that I'm really excited to be doing. The pattern is called Turtleneck Tube Vest, and it is a pattern by Stephanie Jappel, and it is a remake of one of her previous patterns that was in her book Fitted Knits, which came out, I think, kind of around 2010, and it may be out of print now, but she has gone back and added some additional sizing ranges and some additional fit considerations. And so it's a really cute top. I think I showed you the pattern last week. So she and her daughters are modeling it. It's not a great picture because I didn't print it in color, but you can see the three of them. This is her and her two daughters. And they are wearing the vest in a variety of colors. You can basically knit it so that it's a little bit more close fitting, and you can wear it as a turtleneck or as a tank, or you can knit it so that it's a little bit looser fitting, and then you can put on a tee or a tank top underneath it. So it's kind of however you want to wear it. They are hosting, I say they, okay, she rewrote the pattern. And I had the honor of tech editing the pattern, and my friend Christine supplied the yarn for the reknit of the pattern, and is also kind of co-hosting a knit along with Stephanie Jappel in her group. And that is she is Treasure Goddess Yarns on. She has an Etsy shop, but she also has her own website, which is Treasure Goddess Yarns. And the yarn that is called for in the pattern is her Yak Silk DK Treasures. So you can see here, and she's got her little pirate sheepy that says yarn, and it is 60% superwash merino, 20% yak, 20% silk, DK weight 230 yards to 100 grams. My colorway is Treasure of the Emerald Isle, which is green and lovely, but she has a variety of solid colors, and the yak in the yarn is actually darker in tone, so it looks like a mixed blend of fiber, and it takes the colors darker. It makes them moodier. It doesn't take them like bright superwash, bleach white superwash, scoured bleached white superwash yarn. So the colors are moodier and deeper and really jewel toned, and they're lovely, and honestly I could knit one in every color and be happy, but I have chosen the green colorway, which is called Treasure of the Emerald Isle, and that is what I have here. The nice thing about this top is that since it is a turtleneck, this is the green that I have, it glows. It's just stunning. The nice thing is that since this is a because this is a tank top, it has no sleeves, and so even in the largest size, I should say the chest size goes from a size 30 all the way up to 60 inches in terms of bust, and that takes you from 2 skeins all the way up through 4 skeins of yarn. So it's not a huge yarn buster, or it's not a huge yarn eater because it doesn't have sleeves. So my size is actually for 3 skeins, and so that is what I have done. And you start with, the pattern is knit all in one piece. You do a little bit in the round and then a little bit of back and forth, and then you join it back up in the round. And so it's a top down, it's easy to knit all in one piece. And so this is as far as I am. So you start with your turtleneck, which you knit in the round, and then you do a little binding off and a little separating, and then you're going to knit the fronts and the backs separately. So I am working on my front right now, and I have just gotten in a few rows. I should have taken the back and put it on a different needle, but I haven't yet, so it's still on the back. But I am working on this. Excuse me. So I am working on this, and it took me a day or two to sort of get the ribbing done, but then I did all this part, this inch or two last night at knit night, and so now I'm just going to continue working on this, and I feel like I should be able to finish this by the end of the month. I'm excited about that, just because, again, it's 3 skeins of yarn, so it's not going to be super strenuous. So yeah, I hope to finish the front and maybe get started on the back before I talk to you next. And this is my, sometimes I knit in kind of a carrot and stick approach, and this is definitely the carrot. So, carrot? I don't know. I knit on things that I should be knitting on, and then I knit on things to reward myself. So I will work on my dad's sock for a while, and then my reward is that I get to knit with this gorgeous, luscious yak silk yarn, and work on something for myself. So that's kind of how I keep myself on track with projects. So the third project on the needles is one that I contemplated not bringing, but I did actually work on it several times this week. I don't know that you'll actually be able to tell that a lot has been, any progress has been made, but there is some subtle progress, and this is the the Hipster Tea by Joji Locatelli, and this is also in Treasure Goddess yarn. I guess I'm having, well, first of all, I'm going through a green period. I'm also going through a Treasure Goddess period. I have showed you this before. This is in her yak silk sock, sorry, yak sock. I think it's Treasured Toes. Hang on, let me pull it. This is in her Treasured Yak Toes sock, which is 70% superwash merino wool, 20% yak, 10% nylon. As I said, you can see that it takes the colors interestingly. So I have, this one is From the Depths She Rose, and this one is Song of the Sirens, and I have maybe a half to a third of the balls left, and I am working on this cool tea. I had put this aside for a while because the weather changed, but now that the weather is chilly again, I am excited to get back into working on it. As I said, this is modeled after her hipster shawl, which has this kind of lace motif where you're crisscrossing, you're creating long loops and then crisscrossing them, and so that is at the top of the shoulders, and then it's really nice because you work on the front and back separately, and all of these edges are basically finished edges. They're either stockinette with slip stitches so they can kind of curl under and just kind of be nice selvage edges, or there is a little bit of garter stitching at the edges, so you'll have a finished kind of armhole edge here. But basically what happens is then you join in the round and you just work down to the bottom and you add some ribbing and you are done. And so honestly what I am doing right now is I'm going to continue knitting for a while. I will probably knit until I run out of yarn, but that said, I should double check the pattern and see how many inches it actually wants you to knit. It may actually be more of a cropped tank, but I actually might like it a little bit longer. So my guess is I will probably just go until I run out of yarn, and then I'll finish on the bottom with the dark color. So, and I did probably put in an inch or two on that this week, so I'm not moving super fast on this, but as I have said in previous weeks, because of my tendonitis, it is nice to have a couple worsted weight projects going and a fingering weight project going, so I can kind of go back and forth between them, and so that definitely has been getting in there when I'm ready for something that's a little bit lighter weight. So the socks and the sweater, or the socks and the turtleneck are definitely my focus right now. I would love to finish those in the next week or two. This one is just a UFO that I wanted to keep working on, and honestly if I finished it this month, I'll never finish it this month, but it's just a fun thing to keep working on. So that is kind of the knits. Let's, I will talk to you for 2 seconds about the spin because I don't have a lot to show you. This is also Treasure Goddess. Apparently I'm on a real kick here. When I brought the green for my sweater, she had this gorgeous braid of red tarhi in the shop, and so I am almost halfway through spinning the singles for this. This is the second half, and I plan to start that this week so that I can apply that together and throw it up in the shop. It will be a lovely semi-solid skein, so if that is something you are looking for, it really is this bright. I know it feels like it's blowing out the camera a little bit, but it is almost a bright kind of fire orangey red going into kind of a dark, almost brick red. So it's lovely, and I am enjoying spinning it. The fiber prep is really lovely, so I can recommend that for you. So let's touch briefly on embroidery. Remember I told you that after Christmas I wanted to embroider our Christmas stockings with initials, and first there I did the first one, which was a G, and I really loved that one, and I showed you this one finished last week. And then I moved on and started one for my mother-in-law, and that is a D, and I went ahead and finished that one this past week. I'm really happy with the way that came out, which meant it was time for a new one, and now I'm working on my own, and so I am working on the L. So I worked on this last night. I'll work on it the rest of the week. I expect I will finish it this week, and then the really big one is I have the W for Wes, and so that one will be the week after, and then I will be done with this project, and I will put these away until next year, and future me is going to love that past me already did this project, so that when I pull them out to display them for Christmas 2025, they will all be ready to go. So I'm very excited about these, and it's been another something to sort of work into my crafting rotation, and I'm very happy. The stockings themselves are made from recycled sweaters. I got them from a seller on Etsy years ago, but I decided to add the handmade touch of doing a little bit of embroidery and sort of personalizing them for us. So the last one, and it's a little bit of a bigger one, I'm going to push back for a minute and stand up, is that I have been working on my quilting. I showed you some fabric late last year before I took my sewing machine down. It was a fat quarter of really fun, vibrant floral colorways, and what I wanted to do was make a quilt called, it was a potato chip quilt. And potato chip blocks are, they are pieces of fabric that measure 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches, so that when they are quilted, they come out to a size of 2 by 4, which makes them exactly twice as long as they are wide. And you can arrange these chips in a variety of ways. They look almost like bricks. I don't know why they're called potato chips, but basically you cut all the fabric the same size, so then it doesn't even matter where you put it because it all fits in. And the quilt that I am using is called Stashbuster number 12. I think it's called Chip It Good. It is a free pattern to be downloaded from Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts, who is a quilter in Canada, and I will put a link to the pattern. And the fabric bundle that I am using, it was a fat quarter. It is Contempo, and then it is called, trying to keep all this stuff in my, I used to be able to keep all of this stuff in my head, but now I sadly appear not to be able to. So let's see if I have the, I thought I put it in here, but put it in here? Maybe, maybe not. It is from Benartex, and is it in here? Let's see. Yes, it is. Okay, it is Contempo. It is called Gathering by Shelley Cavanagh, and it is a fat quarter bundle. I try and keep all my labels, and then I try and put them in my journal along with notes about the project and a picture of the finished project. That's what this is here. And so I keep throwing the labels in here when I don't talk about the project, when I'm not ready to talk about the project, or I don't have a photo of the project yet. And so like this is the Kay Facet quilt that I showed you not that long ago, but I haven't taken a picture yet. So yeah, anyway, that's why I keep pulling this out. Anyway, it is fabric from Benartex, and so I think I talked about my challenges on this one, and I brought the quilt top in a little bit. So my challenges are that I do not sew very straight, and that I do not cut entirely accurately, and so the more seams that I put into a quilt, the worse it gets. So this has been an exercise in kind of practicing and learning how to quilt, and I'm still definitely doing both of those things, but the top got to a size where I decided I wanted to be done with it, and so I finished adding to it this weekend, and then I went ahead and put the quilt sandwich together, and so that is what I'm going to show you right now. So this is the quilt right now. Let's see if I have it. Okay, so it is fairly large. At this point, it is approximately 37 inches across, and then it is 48 inches down. So it is a rectangle of sorts. As you can see, I made it entirely with 2.5 by 4.5 strips, so the blocks are all 2 by 4. They should roughly line up to the middles here, but you can see where some of them do not because I was not super precise. And what I kept doing is I kept kind of squaring off my corners and adding more. And my guess is that this quilt is going to be a little wobbly around the edges. You can also see some of the evidence where there are like plucks, where there are a little bit of pleat, or where it's not lying 100% flat. That is where I did not get my seams 100% straight. And of course that magnifies because you start at the center of the quilt with this big chunk of 8 blocks, and then you start building round frames around it, and each round gets successively a little bit more because of course your problems compound. So that is what I have done. This is sandwiched together. It's got batting, and then it's also got backing fabric on it. And I picked this cute, it's 108 inches wide. It is a backing from Kimberbell, and it does not match the collection at all, but I picked it because it was not designed to match the collection. I picked it because it was green, and it seemed like it almost had a little bit of the green in the dark section of this block. It's hard to see, but you can see that there's like a light section and then a darker section, and I feel like that green almost matches this one. It's probably not quite a match, but I thought it would be close enough, and there isn't enough green in this quilt. The primary colors are the blue and the pink. There are just some highlights of green, so I thought the green on the back and also a green binding would kind of bring that out. So let's talk about my mistake yesterday, or my my attempt at something, and then I'll be done. So I now have to quilt this quilt, and I'm going to quilt it on my home sewing machine. And I have tried a variety of different methods for quilting. Well, I guess I haven't tried that many methods for quilting. Primarily what I've been doing is kind of loops and swirls, and a little bit of what is called meandering, which is kind of where you take the needle and you're just kind of sewing around and around and around and meandering like you would in a park, and just kind of trying not to cross over too much. And so that is kind of the free motion quilting that I have worked on. I've also done a little bit of straight line quilting where I just kind of quilt along the seam edges or a small distance from the seam. So for this one, I had a brilliant idea. It's not brilliant. Let me preface you by saying that. I had a brilliant idea. So I looked at the back of this quilt pattern, and I was like, what if I quilted it from the back? Because this backing has all of these dotted lines, and it's got all these swirls, and then it's also got all these really cool flowers. And I was like, what if I echoed some of these lines and used that to quilt? So then it would be like flowers on a flower quilt. So right here is where I started to do that. And you can see it started at the center of the quilt, and I kind of followed the quilting lines, not very well, but I sort of started to get into it. And then I went to the flower, and I did a little bit of stitching over round and round in the center, and then I tried to follow some of the lines out and kind of echo some of the flower lines for the petals. And then I kind of connected it, even though it doesn't connect. I had to kind of come up with a connection to the next one. So I kind of swirled over and I did another flower. And then if you look, I did another swirl. Anyway, I did this for about the half the vertical length of the quilt. So basically I started at the center of the quilt down here and basically worked out towards the edge. And then I flipped it over and it looked like the dog's breakfast. So I've already pulled out some of it, but let me show you what I mean. Okay, so you can see, sorry, my chair is on the carpet and it does not roll easily. So you might be able to see here, so this is where you can see where I kind of did the swirl, and you can kind of tell that it's not a very round swirl, like where I kind of jerked here, and this didn't work very well. And I was kind of willing to live with that, but then I looked at the flower, and the flower is a right old mess. So you can see like there's a bunch here, and then I was kind of swirling around, and sometimes I didn't quite get to the center before I started the next one. It's just, it looks really messy, and not that I expect my quilting to look professional, but it does not have the look that I'm not exactly sure what look I was going for, but it does not have the look that I was really going for. So moral of the story times 2. 1, practice. I probably shouldn't have started on my quilt itself, because now I have to pull out all of this stitching through the 3 layers of quilt, which is really just not that much fun. It's not a big deal. I can do it. I have a seam ripper. It just creates lots of little threads and it's messy. And of course, because I went around so much at the center here, like this section takes a while to get everything unpicked and out because there's tons and tons of seams here and they just cross over each other. So that's the first one. So 1, practice. 2, definitely, well, okay. 1, test it out on a different sample. 2, that also comes with that, practice. I did the first couple things on the quilt, and of course I'm not practiced and I'm not good at following the lines. And so yeah, it really just wasn't that much fun. So I'm going to pull it out, and I think I'm going to go back to something that I do know how to do, which is kind of loops and swirls and meanders, and I think that's what this quilt is going to be. But so I'm going to have to pull out a couple more motifs. I think I have 4 more motifs to pick out, and then, so it wasn't the worst. I think I have 5 motifs to pick out. I picked out a couple of them yesterday. So it's not the worst, and I will get back to it, and it won't take me that long. But that was sort of a lesson in I'm not quite ready to move on to new things yet. I still should, stick with what I know, I guess, which isn't that hard to, because I've done 4 quilts. So I'm just not ready yet. And I should probably make up some leftover fabric and just do kind of a sampler from leftover fabric. So that is what I'm working on. After I finish this one, which I hope to do this month, I have another quilt that's basically ready to be quilted. It was the stripy quilt front that I made in the baby fabric, and I have pieced the back, and I have everything ready to go. I just haven't like sandwiched it together and quilted it. So that's the one I'm going to do after this one. And then I discovered what I think my next quilt is going to be, and I'm not going to talk about it yet because I still have probably several weeks before I get this done. And then in February, I actually have a whole bunch of weekend plans, which I will talk about. I'm going to go to 2 retreats in February, and I'm really excited. So I don't know how much quilting I'll get done in February, but if I could finish these 2 quilts by the end of January, or finish them in February, then come March I could start something new, and that would be really exciting. I'm starting to think about it. I found a pattern, and now I just have to decide what fabric I want to use, and it probably calls for fabric that I don't have, but in the interest of not buying anything and trying to use what I do have, I'm going to pick out something that I have and make it work. The one piece that I will let myself do is if I can find some fabric in my stash that I can kind of make work, I will let myself buy some background and some backing, because I don't have anything, well, it depends on what I pick. I might have backing already, but I probably won't have background for the front. So I will potentially, if I can get through these quilts, maybe in February, I will let myself buy some of the yardage that I would need to finish the quilt with the fabric that I have. So, yeah, so that's what I've got. So I kept it to 30 minutes, which is kind of crazy because I had a lot to show you. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are surviving the weather. If you are in Los Angeles, I am thinking all my thoughts. My heart really hurts. The areas that are affected are not the areas that I grew up in. So my parents are safe, but I have a really good friend from high school who lost her home, and she and her husband and 2 boys are now trying to figure out what to do next. And she was also a hand maker, and so we actually chatted a little bit the other day. She lost all of her stash, she lost all of her projects, she lost knitting needles from her grandmother, and it shouldn't take these personal details for us to feel about it, but it does make it feel keenly worse. I decided that once she is settled, I'm going to buy her a set of needles and crochet hooks, and I have already started going through my stash to pull out some project bags and a few special skeins, because I absolutely cannot begin to replace what she has lost. It will never replace that, but I'm sure that in the coming weeks, her focus is going to be on her children and her husband and getting them shelter and clothes and food, and I cannot imagine, I mean, I know it's just material possessions, and truthfully, if you and your loved ones make it through a disaster like that, then you have everything you need, but I also cannot imagine losing absolutely everything, including stuff from my grandmother and my hobby, and, you know, such a big part of my life. And so I am donating money to causes and following up on that, but, you know, if I can help some crafters start a new stash, then I have more than abundant supplies for myself, and so I am working to put together some things for her and her family, and if I become aware of other crafters that I know who are in the same position, I will do the same for them. So I hope that you are having a good week. I hope that you are safe, and I wish you nothing but the best in the coming week, and I will see you next week. Until then, I will say happy knitting, spinning, crocheting, quilting, embroidering, no matter what craft you pursue. But above all, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.